Welcome to Finance Committee. Today is Friday, May 19th. It's 1:30 p.m. and we are going to be discussing the preliminary budget. So I've attached in the agenda the presentation that will be presented to the board on Monday, the revenue limit worksheet, preliminary budget summary, and we're also going to discuss food service meal prices for next year as well as student fees, a discussion about student fees. So the PowerPoint is linked in. I'm going to do kind of a brief synopsis because the full presentation will be on Monday at the board meeting. But we just kind of start off with the agenda, which is just an overview of the things that we're going to talk about. The goals of the budget. I always try to kind of focus on Merton's mission, vision, and values when I'm developing the budget, and really all the work we do in the district, but it always helps me kind of connect like the fiscal piece to the student piece. So that's something that I like to put as the first slide because to me that really is what we're doing this all for. So the timeline, I know I've handed out the budget calendar before, but this is just like a little mini budget calendar. Right now we're doing the preliminary budget. But all of this information that I'm telling you today, unfortunately, is basically a lie because it changes 100 times between now and October. So in September, we've got the annual meeting, which is a much better grasp on the budget. And then in October, that's our true final numbers where we certify the tax levy and state aid, property value, all of that. So when we're developing this budget, the main thing is we don't have final numbers in the biennial at the state level. We typically don't see that until July, and that is turning out to be true this year as well. So we just don't know if there's revenue that we have that we're not going to get. We don't know if there's any increase to per pupil, any increase to state aid. So we're kind of flying with what we have, and we've got revenue scenarios that dictate, okay, if we did get $100 per pupil, where would that leave us? If we get 300, where would that leave us? So right now though, ultimately we're undecided. We know we have salary increases. We know we have a very intense health insurance increase to accommodate. I'm also estimating an increase in property values, which really plays into the revenue limit worksheet, but it doesn't affect our dollars. Like I don't have the authority to just raise everyone's property taxes. That's a referendum. We're not doing that. Unknown open enrollment figures, and then we still have ESSER $3 to utilize. So going to the next slide, the budget realities. What we do know isn't great. So we're doing staff increases, which is going to cost about $350,000. Health insurance increases, and then other things like we've got our property and workers' comp insurance is going up. We need additional furniture in the classrooms. We need 2 additional teachers, and then special education costs are continuing to rise as well.
Can I come back to the
Yes.
ESSER funds? Do those have to be, is there a deadline on when those that has to be used in the next fiscal year?
Correct. Yep, the ESSER 2 expires in September of 2023, so this September. ESSER 3 expires September of 24, so we have 1 more year of salaries and benefits, and that's exactly what that's gonna pay for. And then we'll come out clean with that. Some projects that we know we've got the asphalt expansion and the new internal construction here at the primary to accommodate the makerspace and special ed rooms. We're doing the maintenance shed over summer, so I'm hoping really that shed is gonna be on this fiscal year if they can wrap up that work before the end of June and we can pay that invoice. We know we have a very intense math adoption and a relatively significant 6th grade literacy cost as well, $45,000 with that.
How often do we have our curriculum? Do we buy
Yep, every 5 years, and like the math adoption though is a continual cost. That is basically a set cost. Now there's an initial startup cost where it's, you get the materials and some PE and things, but there is a continual consumable cost to the district moving forward. ELA, same thing too. It depends on the other curriculums, like for instance, science, it's the way it is for 6-8, but it all depends on the curriculum. Our social studies was a one and done. Yep, it's an initial implementation cost. Next year is like the 6-8 ELA it's a consumable product, so there will be an ongoing cost to it. And we do anticipate possibly the K through 5 curriculum being a continued cost too as well.
So that'll change our budgeting.
It could too as well. Correct.
Sure will.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't let that drive what it is we believe is in the
Correct.
best interest of the district. Like, for instance, our last program just happened to be a one and done, for our math curriculum. So it all depends on the uniqueness of the curriculum.
Do you think more curricular are moving towards consumable models?
It ebbs and flows. It ebbs and flows. It certainly does, because they're both consumable as well as online. Again, we have always chosen to do both of them because the online version and your consumable is almost the same price. So, yeah.
Yeah, so math is coming in all in with the professional development, the workbooks, the textbooks, the consumables, everything, I already said professional development, about $100,000.
Okay.
So it's not small, but if that's what's best for kids, then that's what we're on for.
Compared to social studies last year was 60, I think, and
And
that was
like almost 70.
almost 70 for
Yeah.
K through 8.
Yep.
So it's 100 for math, but there is some continued
Yep.
work from Halloween year.
Yep. But that's okay, that's why we're here, so that's where we will spend the dollars. Then I go into the revenue limit calculation, and I've talked about that before, but that's basically this, between state aid and property taxes, it's all how much we can spend as a district. So we are, if you look at the revenue limit worksheet, we're the lowest, we're at the absolute floor we could be at, so.
Oh, yes, per student.
For per
Yes.
pupil, yeah, that $10,000, so that's a bummer. Everyone in the area, there's some districts, I think, Heartland is at like 10,059, so there's others that are low like we are, but
Lake Country is $11,200.
yeah.
Kettle is
Blows my mind.
$12,000 some odd dollars.
Yep.
So,
Verona's over 15,000, that's Madison, but like, yeah, 15 grand per kid.
Nicolay
whereas-
is
I
like
gave a-
18.
Yeah.
I gave a presentation, and you'll see that in your weekly updates, a presentation to our community on that, and I highlighted many local school districts about where we are at, and we are the lowest per pupil spender in our area.
Yeah,
The only other one that's close to us is Miguanago.
they're also at
Miguanago is also at 10,000.
Okay.
Heartland Lakeside, I think, is at
They're pretty
1059,
low,
so.
yeah.
Very close. Did you have many people attend?
There were 4.
So that's what we're tied to, so that's what we
That's what
live
we have,
within
yep.
our limit. I haven't,
April, what was last year's mill rate? 340, 82?
something like that, I would have to double check. But yeah, and it dropped again because the big thing that we need to focus on is so everything that lives in the revenue limit is based on a 3-year rolling average of kid count. So you see
Okay.
here, like if you look at, those boxes, then it goes from 777, 797, and 841. But then the next box down, line 6, you see that 2020 year drop off. So that was a low kid count year. So we
Okay.
lost 20 FTE, which in this case is great because now our 3-year rolling average is increased. So that's what truly drives if we can have more money or not. So that plays into not the 10,000, but the formula behind the base revenue.
Remind me what a mill rate is.
The mill rate is for the taxes, so that's per thousand of dollars that go onto the property tax base. So,
I used to know this, but.
no, that's okay,
Make
we
sure I
call
remember
it,
what
we
I'm
call
talking
it the
about.
mill rate, we call it the tax levy, so there's a levy rate and everything just gets kind of jumbled, like even in my own brain sometimes. But that is the amount, the levy rate, that .00316, that means $3.16 for every $1,000 of property value is what plays into the tax bill. And I'm not the only thing on the tax bill, I can't predict the whole, because there's fire, there's police, there's municipalities.
Yeah, also, each municipality's rate may be different. So we say it's 316, we're projecting 316, well, the town of Merton may have, it could be 307.
Yeah,
The town of
6
Lisbon could be
districts.
326. It's all depending on where the property gets distributed.
Okay.
And that's a whole nother seminar.
And we know that in July as well.
No, you find that out in October is when we set our final
Oh, right,
budget.
yes.
And then ultimately, you find that out, we submit that to all of the local municipalities, to the state, to the county, and then they distribute your tax bill.
And Arrowhead's on your tax bill as well, so we have our levy, so it's our levy plus Arrowhead is the total school.
Okay.
And then each municipality has its own.
Because we don't even know how much state aid we're getting.
Right.
Correct.
Because that also depends on how much state aid. We know that we just had, there's gonna be an assessment of new property values, as well as new property. Yeah, it's such a big unknown.
This assessment of new property values, how often does that happen?
That happens every, well,
It's up
whenever,
to each
it's up to each
municipality.
municipality.
Oh,
Like a
okay.
year ago, we had a 27% increase. And I don't know if they're gonna do it again this year, but we know that we had significant development that has happened between, again, when they say properties, it's January 1st of 2022 to December 31st of 2022. That's the window they look at. So
So
you're always a
everything
year
built
behind.
in there.
You're always a year behind. So if you have a basement, just a basement, you don't get assessed, you get assessed different than the
Right.
person who may be structurally up
Mhm.
compared to the person who is occupancy. But if you have a basement in, they do the land plus what they feel your basement is worth. Could be 150,000, that's how much property, new property value we get into the formula.
Okay.
And then state aid and property taxes have an inverse relationship. So if we get more money from the governor's biennial budget at the state level, that goes up, then our property tax is suppressed because it's in the pie. So if one piece shifts, the other shifts smaller. So it's,
So we don't get more money,
we don't get
No.
more money,
No.
no.
because this is all about this 10,000.
It's all
Correct.
about who pays the bill.
Yes,
That's
it's
the
about
point.
who foots the bill.
And the
exactly.
last several years, you'll hear the state of Wisconsin, the legislators say, hey, we put a lot of money into education. No, you
didn't.
did, you're funding more education, but you
Yeah.
haven't expanded the pot. It was taxpayer relief, is what it was.
Correct. Which we'll still take, but it doesn't help.
It doesn't help the school, it
doesn't
helps,
change
it
truly
helps the
doesn't
community, but it
Yeah.
doesn't help your school's bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so that's the revenue limit, and that's the important piece is to understand there, but again, all of these numbers are a lie, because I don't know my September count, I don't know my summer school count, that's a huge driver, don't know my property value,
And a
so
line is a placeholder.
it sure is a placeholder.
Everything you see here is a
every-
placeholder.
I know, that's what's tough about the May presentation, because it's like there are important pieces in it, but it moves around so much that what we're discussing today is just not gonna be reality. And then we kinda talked about state equalization aid as well. So our preliminary revenue estimate, I'm looking at 10.6 million in Fund 10 revenues, compared to 11.3 in expenses. So we're projecting right now a deficit budget, but on the next slide, the state of the budget slide, I kind of explain that there's items that are included right now in operating that we could potentially take from fund balance and that we probably will take from fund balance. Fund balance is where we use our one-time expenses of things that are not reoccurring costs.
Parking lots.
Parking lots, internal construction, maintenance sheds, all of those types of things are perfect contenders to be taken from fund balance. Things that are less perfect contenders are salary increases and health
They're not
insurance.
one time.
And I'm realizing that my salary increase is just the teacher and not the total, so I will update that before we
Yep.
present.
I got it, it's right around 350.
Okay, 350,
I will,
yeah.
I've updated a few things.
Oh, and I have a highlighter and not a pen, can I grab that pen? Thank you. I'm like, that's not great. Yeah, cause our total for all staff, so, yep, so we know that we're up against this and we know that we have this, but ultimately as a district too, we do feel that it's so important to, give an increase, even if it's tough on the district budget. We understand that every single one of our staff members, it's tough on their pocket too, so we're trying to strike that balance. The good news is that the district is a very healthy financially, and we have a projected fund balance that really probably won't change from 2021 to 22 last fiscal year compared to this fiscal year. I am projecting that this fiscal year we will have some level of a surplus, which could either be moved to Fund 46 or left in fund balance to help replenish the asphalt,
Right.
the construction, so that's kind of the good news here, so.
April, how much do we have in Fund 46?
Fund 46 is just over $1 million, yeah, probably 1.1 at this point.
And Fund 46 means what?
Capital improvements, so
That is
that,
not reflected in this number, 3.6.
correct, cause
Yep.
this number is just Fund 10.
Yep.
So again, with fund accounting having all of our goofy little buckets, for the scenario. So Fund 46 is where like you can replace your roof, you can do your parking lot. you can
Facility
do-
only.
Yeah, facility only.
That's right. Yeah, I
Mhm.
remember this.
And then in Fund 41, we have 100,000,
We have
150,
100 and,
just over 100.
Remind
Just
me what
over-
Fund 41 does,
Another capital improvement budget.
which
Fund
is
41
separate
is,
from the other one?
yeah, so
Yeah.
Fund 41 is capital expansion. So that's the one where you can use, we drained that during the remodel a couple of years
Mhm.
ago because we were like moving around walls and ripping out HVAC and like that kind of a thing. So it's more for, the distinction is Fund 46 is for like replacements. So your boiler replacement, your roof replacement, your parking lot replacement, that kind of a thing. We could have used, if we had more money in Fund 41 at this point, we could use that for the remodel that will be going on here. The reason that we used Fund 41 for the remodel back when we did is because there's a whole thing called shared costs, which plays into the revenue limit and it plays into state aid. And those shared costs are amortized, so it gives you a benefit when state aid is being calculated. So you share those, like we spent over $1 million from Fund 41, but I didn't have to take that hit in one fiscal year. So then my state aid wasn't like, whoa, you know, it didn't do that, because what happens when it does that is then your property taxes go way up.
Right.
Which you don't want, because then your community comes to the annual meeting and is like, what is going on? So, that was how we kind of prevented that, so I was able to amortize over 8 years the shared cost, so then it's like a little bit of a hit, and then, COVID happened and ESSER happened and everyone's shared costs are wacky and none of us can even begin. They're a hard thing to predict in the first place, but I think we all kind of stopped trying to even predict what was gonna happen, but that is the main benefit to 41.
Is there
So,
either of these that it starts raining in a classroom? Is there a specific fund for emergencies that we did not anticipate?
you could use 46.
Does it matter?
46 or fund balance,
Okay.
correct.
Yep, yeah, like if your ceiling caves in and you're like,
Yep.
this is not ideal, 46 or fund balance,
Correct.
yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so we have almost $5 million in reserves.
Yeah, we sure do, which is phenomenal. So that will be presented on Monday, but, and again, this is just such a preliminary, glimpse, but the whole point of the preliminary budget is to receive spending authority from the board, so that on July 1st for our new fiscal year, we can continue to like pay salaries and, you know,
Make
do parking
commitments,
lots.
make commitments.
Yes,
All of our
correct.
commitments we make,
Pay contract.
All of our commitments,
Yeah.
yeah.
so.
And then the budget summary is more just for info, this is just kind of everything condensed, so if you wanted to see something at a quick glance,
Are
like,
these the same things that I'm holding?
it's
I have
possible.
one that's stapled and one that's,
Oh,
I
here's
see.
your worksheet, yeah, see, you got it.
I think I have doubles.
Yeah, you might have doubles, and that's okay, doubles are fine. So this is just, it's just a breakout, it's just kind of like all the numbers in a different look, and this is, the revenues are by source. So it's exactly what the line item says, and then the expenses are by object.
How
So-
much, has there been any change in our open enrollment since last you told me about? I read the
We've had
numbers in
16.
the board.
We had 16 that are not in the board packet though, that have left already this year, 16 more from January 1st.
16 that left or 16 that? Oh,
16 that have left
left.
through open enrollment.
Then, okay, then I guess my question is, how is our open enrollment incoming?
About the same as it has been before.
Okay, so we haven't seen a.
So not a
It's just
huge deficit, not a
the net
huge
is
difference. The big difference is, we do anticipate, like the numbers who for the new enrollments are right around the same. You know, they're higher for our kids who are currently with us. I think I've highlighted 11 or 14, whatever's in the board packet, actually I have it right here. That number's higher than normal, because usually we have
What do you
free,
mean already with us?
as in they are already currently enrolled right now.
And then they have to,
They are still
do
enrolled
they
right now.
reapply every year?
No, so what's in the board packet, here, let me pull that up. What's in the board packet
I read it, but. I don't know.
is we have 14 students who currently attend as of today.
Yes.
14 students have applied, or their families have applied to go to a different school. That number is significantly higher. That usually isn't that high.
What do we usually have?
Probably right around 0 to 5.
Okay.
0 to 5. But what you don't see in this, in the question that you said, is how many people have we lost this year? And again, I think we've lost 16 across the district at least, since
Plus,
January 1st.
Potentially plus.
16 plus those 14, and those 16 are gone. Unless, again, we're gonna work hard to try to get them back, but 14 do, so it could be a net of about 30,
Okay,
which is significant.
yes. And is that do we reflect that until it happens, or we just wait till
We
it happens?
kind of
and then
wait
add
for
it?
it, we do have an anticipated less revenue in open enrollment, because that's basically, you're gonna either expend it or get it less, so it is a cost of approximately, hopefully we can get some back.
Mhm.
So it's reflected in this budget as lower revenue and a higher
Right,
expenditure as well.
now those 14, some people, hopefully we're able to keep them, reach out to all those families and see if we can sit down and see if we can answer any
And the
questions.
one we decline for IEP is because we don't have those resources.
Correct, we do not have space. Yep, back in January, the board has said there is no IEP, general IEP space in our special education program, just speech only. Correct.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're
Nope,
totally
nope.
fine. Okay, so next we have food service meal prices. So Ron and I met with Chartwell's to discuss kind of the state of school lunch and what their costs are increasing, food costs are increasing, wages are increasing for our food service staff. So right now, with the primary, we're at $3 per meal, and then the intermediate has two options. They have a $3.25 and a $3.75. One of those comes with like an extra item or something, or a more expensive lunch item, which is the price differential there. So after talking with Chartwell's and working with them, we are recommending to increase food service prices by 15%. Oh, you do have your paper, okay. By 15%.
15 cents.
Sorry, thank you,
15
oh my
cents.
gosh,
I
okay.
don't think that's the same thing.
No, that's not the same thing,
It's
that's
about
close.
5%.
Yeah.
5%.
Yeah, and the percentage of.
Yeah, there's
is
3%, yeah.
Yeah, so 15 cents, thank you, which is going to help cover, so we also had a 3% increase in just our contract with Chartwell's. So we locked the contract, they're our vendor for 5 years, so
Where
they're
are
with
we
us.
in that
We
contract?
just
Year
re-signed
two.
them, so.
Year
this is-
two.
Yep, year two. So we now have a 3% increase in our contract. We have increased food costs and increased staff costs.
Mhm.
So we want to treat our food service staff fairly. They're part of our district, they work with the kids every single day, and we couldn't do it without them. So to help offset all of those costs, 15 cents. So we're recommending $3.15 and then
And that covers like
$3.40.
Chartwell's, I presume they have increased food costs?
They do.
Increased
They have
production
food costs, and again, we did sit down,
Yep.
April and I did sit down, and they did outline what they wanted to move their wages to. I think it's
Mhm.
fair. Again, just like everybody else, they're kind of bumping up their new wage. When you enter into the organization, here's your wage, which means they had to make some corresponding moves.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
very appropriate, and we feel really strong that it's
So these are the different
necessary.
models, but this is what you're recommending?
Yep.
15 cents.
Yeah, 15 cents. I keep wanting to say percent, you guys, I don't know. That would be way worse.
Maybe you know something we don't.
No.
45 cents.
Yeah, but we just kind of have the model so that you could see like, okay, what does this mean?
Again, Rebecca, what we want to do is this comes through Fund 50, which is our food service account, and our goal is to make sure that everything that happens in food service doesn't touch Fund 10.
Correct.
We want that program to be self-sufficient and continuing to operate on its own. We have used Fund 50 again, because we're projected to have a return of about $27,000. However, that helps us cost to, if something breaks, they're looking at new ovens this year, they need some
Yeah.
new ovens, they need a replacement filament. We're having to replace our cafeteria tables because they are very old and getting very difficult to move and do this. So we've got those on a consistent replacement. We just actually replaced all of our intermediate school tables that are in the walls. Those are all brand new. So again, all those funds can only be used, so any fund balance or surplus has to go back towards the food service organization.
And
or food service
can the
provider.
return, okay, so there's some things in higher education you have to, if you collect it this year, you have to use it this year, is this something you can roll?
You can
use
roll.
X amount here, but then,
There is an amount that you can't exceed, which is 3 months of operations, I think.
Yes.
okay,
Yep, so there is a cap on how much, because you just can't keep making money and keeping it,
right,
right?
yes.
They wanna make sure that if that's the case, then you need to lower your prices,
Right.
right? Because if you're not gonna spend that, you should be lowering, not passing that cost on to families. because we don't want a huge surplus in there, but yet we wanna make sure that when they need a new oven,
Yes,
we can supply that.
so that part there,
When
you
we
can
wanna
save it,
re-
but you can't save everything. You have,
Correct.
yes, can't exceed.
Correct, yeah, and we've been very modest with our food service prices, and 15 cents, given the environment we're in, is appropriate. We'd like.
Is there a cap on our budget for how much you can have in Fund 10?
No,
That's up to the board. DBI has no recommendations on
Okay.
what you have in fund balance, like they
So,
don't.
yeah, so some states say it can only be X percentage of
Correct.
your operating budget because it's the taxpayers' money that.
correct.
Correct.
Okay,
We
well,
do
we
not.
don't have any.
We have a
State
policy
of
that
Wisconsin
states,
doesn't have
state of not, our policy states approximately right around, the goal is to be around 20%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's an old policy, but, yeah, that's what it is.
20% would be like the bare minimum that I'm personally comfortable
that. It'll be
with.
25%, which I like.
Yeah, 20 to
I
25
like
is like.
36%.
Yeah, that's right, but with fund balance, you don't want 80%, because then it's like, well, why are you spending your
Is
money?
it 20 to 25% that affects your bond rating? Or not, did we say bond rating?
It does affect, it does play into the bond rating, yes. Merton has been fortunate during my time that we do not do any cash flow borrowing. So our bond rating would be very important to us if we had to go to a referendum of some sort. But some districts, they need their bond rating every single year for cash flow.
Oh,
Because of the way that we receive the revenues, the timing of that, because payroll is very consistent,
Mhm.
ask anyone.
Every time.
Correct, but the way we receive our revenues isn't, like I can go months without receiving anything from property taxes or state aid. So that's where some districts get into a little bit of a crunch, not a crunch, but, okay. No, that's great, I love the questions that,
I can't be late for Mrs. Jones.
oh yeah, we don't wanna be
I
like.
can't be late there either.
I can't
so
either.
We're both, we're all
Okay,
messing
I'll
around
pull
with
it
that.
off.
5-minute I took way too much time on the budget, 5-minute
Yeah, we're good.
conversation on
I have a
student
lot to
fees.
learn though, so I appreciate it.
So are you good with the 15 cent
Yes, I
increase?
think that's
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you, it's a great, because we are gonna be moving that forward to the board.
Yeah, yeah.
So this, whatever happens here, then this recommendation comes to the board and the board. votes.
Typically, if there is a strong recommendation that comes out of it, then we would move that to the board. But if we say, hey, the committee is split, or there wasn't, you know,
Then I
really
guess the only other,
consensus, then we
because
would go.
the only one here, only other question is, are we anticipating any other costs for cafeteria, do we say cafeteria service, Chartwell services, that
Food service, yeah.
would, it sounds like we can cover the ovens and
Yes,
tables
we
and things
can.
like that, all of that is good
Yep,
with
they
that
sat
15
down with
cents.
April
We
and
filled their
I,
wish
and
list.
we filled their wish list.
Okay,
Everything they
fantastic
wanted,
then.
we got, because it was reasonable.
Yep,
I shouldn't say everything, they wanted a $50,000 stove.
So
Remember that?
So is that
I
one
do,
thing?
well, yeah, that wasn't feasible.
That wasn't feasible. So there are things that they ask and we say no to. But this does, again, because they've already pre-ordered, because these things take time, getting preparations for that in April, and I did give authorizations for that too, so. Good question, good question.
Student fees,
Want me to start?
Ronald?
Ronald.
Dr. Russ?
All right, here we go.
Ron
So ultimately, the student fee discussion is every year we take a look at, you got it, every year we take a look at what we've done, and you see the history of our student fees here. So again, fees just cover general operating expenses. Again, you can see that we're a low fee district. We really are in comparison to some other districts as well. But ultimately, what we are requesting is a $5 increase to student fees. Actually, the 23, 24 for 4K.
With the exception of 4K.
4K, are we gonna keep that at $40, or should that be at 40, so keep it there at 40. So we would raise the $5 for primary and $5 for the intermediate.
Okay.
The reason why the intermediate's a little bit higher is obviously we have a lot more as part of our Explore opportunities, as part of the general, not elected, but general specials. Over here, we have art, music, and PE, right? Over there, they've got manufacturing, robotics, face, foods, and things like that as
Right.
well. So it's just more expensive to operate with those costs too
I
as
just
well.
called his grandmother, my mother, and taught her all about fire safety in the kitchen the day he learned. He's like, man, I think you need to hear this.
There you go.
My mom was my preach.
So that's their general fees would be just that. Now, once you get to the technology fee, again, the technology fee is something we are recommending.
And this
We
is
are running
new
that
for
through.
primary this year.
Correct. And we would
Second
be-
for.
We are running that through the policy committee,
Uh-huh.
and you guys will entertain that on Monday. Again, we are recommending that it's $25 just for second through fourth, because they are a one-to-one environment for that fee. And then the 5th through 8th, again, that would start only at 5th grade. And again, because we would continue on the BYOD or the lease to own program, which the majority of them has already purchased or entered into an agreement with us through leases. So again, more to come on that with that technology
So
fee.
that part will be new for
Correct,
families?
and that is something we're discussing at the board.
And these are new costs for some electives?
Correct, these are electives that we would, again, new electives for next year, and we just would like to add, and again, we can't do that because they're just consumable costs. We take a look at what the consumable costs are, and so those are our new
How have we
electives for
been
next
covering
year.
it before?
Some of these classes didn't exist before.
These are new classes.
Mhm.
These are
I
new
don't
classes,
recognize
yeah.
all of them, but we didn't come till the sixth grade.
Yeah, no, these are new ones, the ones that we currently run, those would stay consistent again,
Okay.
yep.
So
We
these are
still
all-
have
And I
other ones
can
coming.
add on here what it covers. I think that's probably kind of important because Dave, Mr. Wagner over at the intermediate, he and I sat down and kind of discussed like where did this, like if it's $30, what do you get for $30? So why don't I add that onto here, cause then when it goes to the full board, that'll be available for everyone to see, cause you get like a clock, you get a little kit with something else, he's gonna have them do all kinds of cool projects. And he gave me, the information behind where he ascertained this dollar figure from, so I'll add that in, cause that will probably be very helpful.
You have time to do that this
Yep.
afternoon?
I'm gonna do it.
That's why unfortunately she's not going to this town, she usually
Yeah,
does.
I usually do,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very cute.
Yeah,
I
I
was
do that
very
too.
excited.
It's really
The other
fun,
piece
yeah.
you're gonna see though is and you'll see that we have not raised our athletic fee
I did see that,
at
yeah.
all. So we are asking for, again, the supplies for the athletic fees that just continue to go up to as well. So it's a $5 fee.
Mhm.
And then actually the athletic fee, there would be a 240, this is $225, we didn't make that adjustment. It would be $240 max per family. So if you have multiple students, again, we understand that.
Also,
Again, that
if you
can
have
be-
more than 4 students
If you
in
have more than
school.
4 students in
Or
school.
more, yeah, if you have more than
We're
3.
gonna give you a break, we
More than
understand
three.
that, so,
Okay.
yeah, we've done that in the past too.
And transportation fees are only if you use transportation?
Transportation fees are for people who do not qualify for free transportation. Okay, so if you
So you're
live
opting in.
outside, exactly, if you opt into it, that would be anybody who lives 2 miles
Mhm.
away from school or lives in a hazardous transportation zone. So for instance, our local, if we have a bus going through there, Park River Crossing is a perfect example.
Mhm.
Some of that subdivision is free bus, and some of it's what we call our pay to ride. So if we have a bus going through there and there's room, we will gladly stop, but there is a $100 fee for the whole year one way, or $200
Okay.
round trip. The other opportunity, so for open enrollment families, if they have either childcare or a friend and they want to access it, they certainly can because of some work situation. Again, anybody who does not qualify for free
Mhm.
is able to opt into that.
Where our buses already go.
Correct, yep, correct. We're not gonna send in a bus that, because of time and
Yeah.
things like that, we do the best we can.
Mhm.
And every year we have subdivisions that ask, and I'm like, I will see what our routes look like. If we can make it, great, because I want buses full. We all want buses full, because we don't need all the rigmarole here too as well. So again, just a modest increase to, everything's just kind of gone up in price, obviously, and just a $5 increase. It's minimal, I mean, when you think about $5 times 800 kids or 900 kids, it's minimal dollars collected from this too. Again, we're not gonna put on district struggles or, any finance, we're not trying to cut a deficit by raising fees at all.
And for kids who have free or reduced lunch, which fees change, or do
All
any
of
fees
it.
change?
So we have a waiver that we send out with the application in the beginning of the year, and if parents send that back, we have an option to say, I want fees waived for, curriculum supplies, Chromebook, field trips, athletics. So parents can choose, like, okay, I'll pay XYZ, but please help me with the other ones, or vice versa, they can send that back, and then, it's very discreet, but our secretaries both have a list of whose fees are waived, so then they know not to send reminder emails, to families, so
they
it
can-
works out
If you're
well.
on free,
Yep.
if you qualify for free, all of these get,
It could, the family can choose if they want all of
If
it
they
waived,
want.
it would all be waived, yes.
yep.
Okay,
Very good.
thank you,
April, congratulations on your last finance committee meeting.
thank you.
You have approximately 2 hours left of your day.
We'll see.
We'll see, wait a second,
We'll
I
see
gotta
how
come back
long-
before you
how long it
leave,
goes,
so.
yeah.
All right, I think we're good, we're
Okay,
adjourned.
all right, wonderful,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was this somebody's, or was this on the table, that's yours? Okay, like I stole it, I know I did.